Okay, let's have a look at homework sheet 13. First question, helps if you have a little diagram to do this. So you have those points. Now question A asks you to find the coordinates of D, the midpoint of AB. So that should be fairly easy and simple for you to get, because you know the midpoint formula. So that's D. Now part E is a little bit more complicated. It splits AC in the ratio 1 to 2. But we know how to do that for vectors, so we can just transfer that information over 2 points. So we've got the points AC and the ratio is 1 to 2. So we're going to take point A, which is 4, 5. We're going to take point C, which is negative 2, 2. We're going to take the ratio, which is 1 to 2. And we're going to do a little cross multiplying method to work out what the coordinates of E are. Check back your vectors how to do that. Now for part C, it gets a bit more complicated now. Part C is where you've got to find where the line DE, so that's this line here, the red one, and line BC, this one here, intersect. So we need to find the coordinates of that point up there. So first thing we're going to have to do for part C is we're going to have to work out the equation of BC. So how do we do that? We get the gradient of BC. You know what B and C are, so that's easy to find. You know it passes through point B or C. You can pick whichever one you want. And then if we use y minus b equals mx minus a, that's going to give you the equation of BC. Now the other equation you have to find is the equation of DE. Now if I go back for a minute to look at the diagram, DE is a vertical line. So that means this equation is x equals something. And it's x equals what? Well, because it passes through D and E, whatever you find the x coordinate up here and the x coordinate here to be, so in other words this coordinate here and this coordinate here, they should be the same. So whatever they two turn out to be, then that's what we put in here for this value. Once you've got those, we just do simultaneous equations. So your line here, you know the x coordinate, so if you substitute x in, you can work out what the y coordinate, that's going to tell you what the coordinates of point F are. Now the second part of the question, the fourth part, D, you've got to find the ratio in which D divides EF. So that's like a collinearity question. So there's E, there's F. You've got to find D, this ratio in here. So if you work out E to D, and then you work out D to F, there should be some connection between them, and then whatever the connection is, that's going to be the ratio. Right? It's quite complicated, quite long, but hopefully you'll get there. And that should be the answer to question 1. Right, question 2 you'll be pleased to hear is a wee bit easier. First one, work out f of g of x. So put the g into the f formula, so that shouldn't be too problematic for you. B, you have to find the inverse formula. So put y equals your answer that you got here, rewrite it as x equals, and then rewrite it again in terms of x for the inverse formula. And then part C is just where we have to find f of g of h of x. So we're going to put the h in here, and then we're going to put that in here. So 2 substitutions to give you the answer. Question 3, we're going to do this in class on probably Wednesday. Tan A is 2 over 1. Tan B equals 3, so write that as 3 over 1. That allows us to draw these little triangles. Simple Pythagoras tells us that side is root 5 and that side is root 10. Now we've got a formula which says cos B minus A, which is cos B cos A minus sin B sin A. Cos B we can get from this triangle, cos A we can get from this triangle, sin B we can get from this triangle, sin A we can get from this triangle. So substituting these fractions in and doing a bit of fraction work will give you your final answer. Question 4, fairly simple as long as you don't make any silly mistakes. Substitute the y formula in. So you end up with x squared plus 3x plus 2 squared plus 4x minus 6 times 3x plus 2 minus 28 equals 0. Remove all the brackets, tidy it all up. You should be able to factorise it. That gives you your x numbers. Putting them back into the first equation gives you the y numbers. Question 5, like last week's, the coefficients become powers. So the third goes up, the half goes up, and the 2 goes up. And then you just simplify it, log to the base 10. This comes out to be a nice, easy number, or it should do. Now remember, you've got to go a wee bit further than that. You've got to do log to the base 10 of 10 to the power something. And then that power comes down the front. This equals 1. So your answer is basically the power. Question 6. M0 is the starting value. So let's say it starts with 2. MT is how much is left. So if it's half-life, it's going to go down to a half, which is going to be a half of 2 is 1. We know from the question that the time it takes for that to happen is 60 years. What we don't know is the value of k. So substituting these numbers into that formula and doing a wee bit of work should allow us to work out what k is. Second part says how long does it take to reduce by 95%. So let's say M0, that there was 100% of it there to start with. It ended up with 5%. We know the value of k, we've just worked that out, and we need to work out t. So basics, the repeat of the first question, substituting all these numbers into the formula to get your answer. Now question 7, I've rewritten the vectors as column vectors. We know from the question that the first two are perpendicular. We also know from the work that we did that perpendicular vectors means that A dot B is equal to 0. So 1 times negative 2, negative 2 times negative 3, and 1 times negative c, all of those things added together must be 0. Get a little equation and you can work out what c is. That's quite easy. Now, part B is the hard bit in the homework sheet. Question tells us that the angle between them is pi radians. Now we're going to use the formula cos theta equals A dot B over the length of A times the length of B. So cos pi is equal to, now A dot B is negative 1 times 1, negative 2 times 2, negative 1 times c, all added up. So you're going to get something on the top. The length of vector A is negative 1 squared, negative 2 squared, negative 1 squared, all added up. And then the length of B is going to be 1 squared, 2 squared, and c squared, all added up. So you're going to have a little formula in here. And let me tell you what it is. 1 squared add 2 squared is 5, add c squared. So you're going to end up with a wee formula in here. Now, cos pi we know is -1. The top, if you do it properly, should become -5 minus c. The bottom should be √6 times √5 plus c squared. Now if you multiply the √6 into the bottom of that fraction and then just multiply it in first of all and then square each side, that gets rid of the square roots. Then if you cross multiply, you get a little equation in terms of c squared, so you end up with c squared minus 2c plus 1 equals 0. That's what you should end up with, which you can factorise to get what c equals. Now that is particularly difficult, that question, so good luck if you manage that.